Things can't be fast, cheap, and good. Hi, and welcome back to my channel. It's me, Lauren, filmmaker extraordinaire, and today we're not talking about movies, we're talking about books. Before I get into the video, this is not a specific attack on anyone who identifies with the BookTok community, likes reading, loves books, etc. As you may have guessed from the name BookTok, BookTok is kind of like a subculture of TikTok that focuses on books. I feel like it really started as people reviewing books, maybe more like kind of literary analyses, talking about series they really liked. I do feel like it has kind of evolved into its own aesthetic to be like a book talker. The books that usually seem to be on the focus of BookTok are fiction, fantasy, and romance. I don't usually see like thrillers necessarily on BookTok or nonfiction books going viral over there. And I think that's because of a bunch of factors. Like, I don't think a lot of people are gonna be talking about The Devil in the White City in the same kind of romanticized way. Although maybe that was a bad example because Holmes was apparently a real lover guy. Could be dark romance, honestly. It could be the kind of thing BookTok would like, actually. So I take it back. I take it back. As TikTok grew and BookTok grew, I think authors and publishers started to be like, whoa, book sales are kind of really on the move. Some of them were like new books, but also books that were pretty old. If they got kind of picked up by the algorithm and promoted, those sales would kind of skyrocket. So they kind of started making more accounts specifically to get onto BookTok, whether that was an author who maybe didn't have an account before on social media or a publishing company who really wanted to promote books to try to like jump on the bandwagon, which I totally respect. Get your coin, get your bag, especially if you're a smaller creator. I think something that's even like kind of more interesting is how if you go to like a Barnes & Noble, I would say other bookstores, but I feel like most other bookstores have sadly like vanished and they're pretty much all Barnes & Nobles for the most part, that a lot of them will have a table that's like the BookTok table. And, you know, it'll have all like the cute covers, the aesthetic, you know, fonts and everything to be like, oh, saw it on BookTok, buy it right here. Because they want to jump on the bandwagon and capitalize on the popularity. I do feel like there's a type of book that goes viral on BookTok. And I do feel like even the ones that aren't maybe the right content are marketed in the same way because that's like what people want to see. I do think some of the more fantasy ones, their covers are a bit more dramatic, but I will say like a lot of just like the fiction romance ones, all are kind of like some kind of solid color with then like plop two people on them or one person on them. They're kind of like a cartoon style. And it's crazy because some of the books, especially some of them are like romance and adult romance books, like 10 years ago, 15 years ago maybe, people do comparisons where like the cover would look like way more intense then versus now it could be just like any book and maybe it's easier for people to read that in public. But I do feel like it's also more deceiving for maybe people who are younger readers who don't realize like the maybe more graphic or erotic nature of the book. The books themselves, beyond just like maybe the topic, typically seem to be relatively easy to read. People say they're more like predictable, maybe a lot of like rom-com type books. There might be a lot of like friends to lovers, enemies to lovers, a lot of kind of tropes that then are always fulfilled. And you might even see people being like, I'm looking for a new enemies to lovers book. And people will recommend X, Y, or Z. And it's like, you literally, obviously they already know then they're getting together, right? Like you're looking for the trope of the book. I feel like a lot of them I'm seeing or hearing about, because I actually haven't really read that many, if any books I think that have gone viral on BookTok. A lot of them are here in first person POV, which is kind of crazy to me. I feel like most of the books that I read are in third person. There are some that'll be in first person, but most of them that I would read are in the third person. And that's just kind of like I associate most books to be. So it's kind of wild that like now a lot of them are in the first person. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just like interesting the kind of cultural shift to what books are more digestible and what books people are choosing to pick up or not. Some books that I, from my research, that have gone pretty viral and famous on BookTok would be Rebecca Yarros's Fourth Wing, that series. I do own Fourth Wing, but I actually haven't read it yet. Sarah J. Maas's A Court of Thorns and Roses, Throne of Glass, those series. Colleen Hoover, It Ends With Us, and literally any book by Emily Henry. Like, they all seem to go mega wild. I haven't read a book by any of those authors officially, so you might be like, it's really big of you to make this video when you haven't even read some of these books. But I don't think I need to read these books to make a video about it, because I can read other things like research about the BookTok culture in these books and link my sources down below. So I think I can still make an educated video topic, especially because I've seen some videos on my feed, because I do like some book videos will pop up. So, but I'm not like fully invested in the BookTok culture. Hopefully now you have a brief idea of what BookTok is. So I'm basically now gonna go into why I have some concerns about it. Mainly, I think it's very much like fast fashion, but for books. Just like how people are getting like new clothes all the time, new trends or whatever. There's a new book that's popular all the time and people are like, oh, I have to have it. I have to have whatever like the latest book is. Whether or not they're gonna read it, they like have to have it. They have to join to their collection. People build up these incredibly insane collections of books. And now growing up, my family, we had a lot of books. Like I got books for like presents and stuff. But I feel like over the course of like my whole life, like up until I moved like across the country when I was 22, like I was acquiring these books. Now I feel like people acquire that same amount of books in like a year or less because they're just like buying and buying and buying books. Now, if you really love books and you're reading all the books, I might still suggest use your library because that's better for the environment in the sense that we're not using, promoting people to and publishers to make so many paper copies of everything, and authors still benefit from libraries and how you check out books from libraries. I mean, even like digital copies. Now I get it though, like I like a physical book, but I just think it's really overwhelming how many books people are buying. And you might be like, oh, well, that's fine. Like, how's that fast fashion? Here's the thing. Not only people buying sort of more in greater quantity, but like books are just being churned out. Like if we think about those authors that I talked about, a couple of them, like literally, a few minutes ago or whatever in this video, some of those authors just like generate books at a rate that feels a little bit impossible for them to be good. For example, Sarah J. Maas, Throne of Glass, 2012, Crown of Midnight, 2013, Heir of Fire, 2014, Queen of Shadows, 2015, Empire of Storms, 2016, Tower of Dawn, 2017, Kingdom of Ash, 2018. And like, you're like, okay, wow, seems like a bit much to me, but you may be like, we can make it work. But she was also releasing these books at the same time. A Court of Thorns and Roses, 2015. A Court of Mist and Fury, 2016. A Court of Wings and Ruin, 2017. A Court of Silver Flames, 2021, and more. George R. R. Martin waiting an insane amount of time to release his like Game of Thrones books. Okay, maybe a bit much, and like some people have to wait a very long time for books. But I feel like there might be a happy medium versus like this mass releasing of books. Like I just feel like there's got to be a quality hit in there somewhere because you're just not giving enough time for the writing, the editing, revisioning process, and then to actually like get the printing and the publishing done. That's very fast. And you're like, oh, that's just one author. Maybe one author, sure, but let's go to Colleen Hoover, okay? Who has released an incredible amount of books. So I'm just gonna put them on the screen here because I'm not reading all these from the different series and stuff, but it's just a lot. And just, I think, coincides with Sarah J. Maas. Like, how are we supposed to expect all these books to be of great caliber when you just bang them out? And it just feels like it's a way to just make a quick buck of money, which again, as I said, like I respect authors like trying to make money, but it just feels a little bit cheap and disheartening to literature as a whole. As I gave examples of SJM and Colleen Hoover writing a lot of books, to talk about Rebecca Yarros, because I don't want to let her off the hook here, as seen in this article, like fashion trends, BookTok generates temporary hype around a particular genre or set of tropes. In her book series premiere, Yarros managed to appeal to many of BookTok's beloved tropes, while also blending two of BookTok's favorite genres. This combined with the fast-paced plot of the book caught the eye of many readers. With the readership surge, it isn't uncommon for both publishers and authors to use that hype to their advantage, cranking out more when it's still popular. I think this actually backfired on Yarros because there was a lot of controversy around Gaelic when it came to her books and how she didn't know how to pronounce certain words that were in her book, words, names, etc. Because it's like, how did you get past all the publishers and this point in the book's journey and you don't know how to pronounce the words that are in your book? Because they're just trying to like, oh, you're popular, we gotta just make more, we gotta promote the book cycle, rush everything through. And it really showed that like the research really wasn't there. The heart and soul maybe wasn't there, and it was much more centered around monetary gain, which is, I think, upsetting. And honestly, like that's why I didn't read Fourth Wing yet, because that kind of happened relatively soon after I bought Fourth Wing, and I was kind of getting ready to read it, and then this happened, and it really kind of turned me off because I'm older people. Like if you're really like, there are people who will write a ton of stuff, like Hamilton. He wrote the other 51. There are people who write and write and write and write. But to write and write and write and write and then also make mistakes, cultural mistakes, when you're kind of using that culture to make money really doesn't sit right with me. And it did cause, I think, a bit of a stir. We're gonna move along, but I just wanted like this to like percolate through your mind and really think about what it means to be a fan of an author who makes so many books. Now, I will say, as a little aside, I am a lover of the Warrior Cat series, and they do crank out a lot of books as well. I will say, though, that Aaron Hunter is a mix of people who work together, which has caused other issues. But those books are also designed for children, okay? And I started reading them when I was a kid, which I still kind of like love them in my heart. But like these books are designed for like teen, young adult. And I think there is a difference. You can come for me in the comments, but I think there's a difference. The reason I was inspired to make this video is because I saw this video, a TikTok video, but it was making rounds on Twitter, of a woman talking about her feelings about a book that she was, you know, encouraged to read based off BookTok. And I was shocked.
In my last video, when I asked you what book you guys think I should be reading, you all yelled at me and said Six of Crows is what you're supposed to read. It's the best book fucking ever. So anyway, I trusted you and I started it last night. Do I have an update for you? I mean, not really. I'm on page 34. Can we talk about something real quick though? Can I just like talk shit for a second? Why the fuck is this book? First of all, the writing is so tiny. Second of all, why are the pages so filled with so many words? Like, what the fuck? I like pages that aren't filled with this many words. Like, literally every page is like, look at this. Are you fucking kidding me? Okay, second of all, a fair warning. I'm reading this until page 100. If I'm not hooked in by page 100, it's a DNF.
She's talking about how she's kind of affronted by the fact that the font is small, there's a lot of words, there's a lot of maps. It's a fantasy book, and I love maps and fantasy books, but she's kind of confused, like she doesn't know what's going on. First of all, she's like 30 pages in the book. It's world building, but she was just like shocked, and it also was not written in the first person, and she was like, how am I supposed to get into the book? I was actually horrified when I saw that, because like, what do you mean the book being in not the first person, like you can't get into the book? What do you mean the font is small and there's a lot of words? Like, you're a book talker. You can see this giant bookshelf behind her of all her beautiful books. Like, what do you mean you're a book talker? You're a self-identified reader who like doesn't like words on a page. And maybe that sounds cruel. And again, like I'm not trying to hail on this particular creator, but what does it mean to you to be a reader if you don't like words on a page? We're getting to a point where reading, we don't actually care about, who cares about reading, but the aesthetic of being a reader is what people are seeking and hunting. And that is so sad to me. Something I love about reading is it transports you to a whole nother world where you can be sitting, you know, on a couch in your house, and then all of a sudden you're in, you know, Middle Earth trekking along with Frodo and Sam, right? Like the book brings you somewhere. You don't need anything but the book to enjoy it. And now it's like all this kind of stuff to be a book talker. Like for my cozy reading nook, think like must-haves for my reading nook, my favorite bookmarks. You know what my bookmarks are? If the book doesn't come with like one of those ribbons or something, or it's not a hardcover book that I can kind of fold it over, a sticky note, a scrap of paper, literally whatever I have lying around is my new favorite bookmark. Because it's not about looking cute while reading, it's like, I want to read the book. For one, the focus of BookTok seemed to shift away from the reading itself and more toward the identity of being a reader. You would think the act of reading precedes the label of reader, but social media famously facilitates the development of appearance without substance. People can appear as readers by adorning themselves with a myriad of markers, none of which are actually reading the book, as that's impossible to fully encapsulate in a 60-second video. Instead, the focus shifts to aesthetics, which include the vibey Pinterest videos, and the purchase and consumption of many, many, many books, all of which are tagged with copious sticky tabs to ensure viewers that you are in fact reading the book. You have to have a lot of books to be on BookTok and be like a reader. Because if you only have a few books, like when you're not a reader, you need lots of books to be a reader. And that I think is wrong. First of all, if you read a book, you're a reader. Second of all, like we have libraries. There are people who read books digitally on like Kindles, tablets, or phones. I have two books that I keep on my phone constantly, Emma and Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. And basically if I'm stuck somewhere and I don't have a book or anything like to do, maybe I don't have like internet or whatever, I will just read one of those two books downloaded on my phone. And when I finish it, I read the other one. And then I just rotate back and forth because I love those books. They're iconic and they're just like kind of fun to have. But like I didn't bring a ton of books with me when I moved to LA. You can kind of see it up here. I do have some books that I put out that I did bring. Shakespeare, Lord of the Rings, Little Women. And then I have a few books that I have in my bedroom. But I didn't bring a ton of books with me because I moved across the country and books are not only, it's expensive to move, but books are heavy. People sort of like seem to be boasting and bragging about all the books they have or all the books they have on their reading list. And they have already like bought these books sometimes, so they haven't read them. And it's just like so much money is going to these books. It's crazy to me. How much are you actually reading or how much are you just trying to like fit in and be perceived a certain way? And there are obviously people who own a lot of books and read a lot of books. These are not like exclusive. You can be a reader and read. But I think there are an insanely scary amount of people who don't actually like read or aren't reading to read the book, but because they want to be in on the viral trend. To me, it's like the wrong reason to read. Although people really say like, hey, BookTok's really gotten people reading again. And it's hard because like, yes, it's great to read. I think it's great to be reading and to have younger people reading and, women reading. Unfortunately, from what I hear, again, I haven't read too many BookTok books. A lot of the books seem to really romanticize like dark romance and can be kind of like about abusers. Like It Ends With Us, the Colleen Hoover book, like yes, from my understanding, like we do learn that it's a book about domestic violence and we don't like the abuser. But there's a lot of books that just still like have this as a thing, have some kind of abuse as sort of a theme, and maybe the man gets redeemed at the end or not. But just this kind of a lot of that material can kind of normalize something that should not be normalized, especially for young women and really any younger person who's reading these books. People should not associate pain or cruelty with love. And when you read all these things, it can be kind of like ingrained. Honestly, I wanted to make this video because I was upset or seeing that TikTok. Having a hobby is not to then tell people you have that hobby. It's to bring joy to yourself. And if you read books, like you shouldn't have to tell people you read books to make yourself feel good about reading books. Like just read a book because you want to. To close out, if you love BookTok and you love every BookTok book ever, I am happy for you. I genuinely am. If that's bringing you joy, then I hope it continues to bring you joy, because this world, there is way too much stuff that is not joyful. All I will say is just be cognizant of what you're consuming. Before you buy a bunch of new books, make sure you've read all the ones you already have, or consider using your library to be better for the environment and better for your wallet. Don't let a trend take over your whole life and like maybe put you in a bad spot just so you can be cool and continue to identify a certain way to the public, because you only really need to identify to yourself. With that being said, if you have any opinions, I would love to hear them in the comments down below. If you like this video, just give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe, as obviously I'm making way more videos again, so you really don't want to miss out. And I will see you next time. Bye.